Okay, so we're going to pick back up here. We left off. And we're going to, I've zoomed in just a little bit. I'm going to see if I can change the viewing style of this drawing over here, because we've got a feature that there's some hidden, showing the hidden lines. See here, showing the hidden lines on this particular view might be useful for this particular feature. I've got a circular hole that doesn't go all the way through. Now I've defined the size of the overall object. I've defined the overall size of the two features. I've got a circular peg coming out. I've got a circular hole here that you can see how far in it goes there. Now I'm not going to define this size here or any of these sizes there because they're already defined on these other views. If I add any more, then I'm going to over-define this object, and that breaks rule number 1 and rule number 2. Define everything once and only once. But I do need to define everything once. That is, size and location of everything needs to be defined. So I have defined the size of this circle. I also need to define the location of this circle. So I'm going to draw a dimension out here. And we talked about, see, it's going to put the dimension lines on the outside. Now, if I can sneak the dimension inside, fine. If not, I can put it outside as well if I need to, if it's a smaller gap. But that's a big enough gap. We'll put that dimension inside. And I also need to define, so I'm going to grab that circular arc and this line here. And I'm going to define this length out here. And notice how I'm kind of stacking these one inside the other. I put the largest dimension furthest to the outside, and I'm adding smaller dimensions inside. And I'll do something pretty similar down here. So I need to define the location of this guy. So I think of it like X and Y locations. I've defined the size, now I need to define the X and Y location. So if I get the circular arc and then grab this line, I can come down here and define its size. Its location basically in the X direction, its horizontal location. And now I need to define its vertical location. So that's from here to this line. And again, I'm just going to stack these dimensions kind of one inside the other. So that defines the location of that hole. Its size has been defined here. We defined its X and Y location, but I've not defined its depth in the third dimension in this case. Right? So to do that, I'm not going to break, but I am going to violate kind of one of the suggestions. That is, don't dimension to a hidden line unless absolutely necessary. Well, there's no other way really to get in here and define this depth here. And where should I put it? Well, I chose to put it down here on the right view. There's not much else going on in the right view. And if I made this other view, if I made drawing view 3 here, the hidden lines where we could actually see it, right? So this is drawing view 3. That's my one up here on the top. If I make it wireframe, you can see that, this hole in here covers up or is covered up by that peg poking out. So I'm going to actually turn that back off. That kind of confuses the reader, doesn't necessarily help anything, but this is the more descriptive view. So I'm going to put that hole and its dimension over here on this view. So let's see, we've got overall size of the object has been described. I don't have to define this 1 inch here because that's already defined here. I've defined the 3 and the 2. So I either define the 2 plus 1 more above it, or I define the 3 overall. I've defined the size and location of this hole and its depth. I've defined the size and location of this peg and its size, its height is defined over here. So we can do all of that within SOLIDWORKS. We also need to be comfortable doing this kind of stuff by paper. All right, I'm going to stop there, and we'll see you guys in class in a couple of weeks.